Welcome back, everyone, to the One While podcast or 1 Year Later podcast. This is a podcast show amplifying the voices of people taking adversity into their own hands and changing their world and the world around them. And today's very special guest is my friend, Axel Reed. Axel, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm nervous.
Come on. You guys, here's the deal. You're going to take some incredible nuggets from the story of the last 365 days of Axel's life, because he truly has taken his life into his own hands and had to like totally bob and weave last year to get to where you are today. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it was a lot of roller coaster ups and downs.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so this show is not about accolades, but I'm going to tell everyone a little bit more context of who you are and where we're going to be heading with this conversation. So first of all, Axel and I met back when I was doing some nonprofit work. And through that, we found a lot of mutual friends down here in Southern California. He grew up down here in Southern California with me, and he went to Chapman University. He also was a college swimmer. And so we share that bond of swimming and staring at a black line on the bottom of the pool for a long history of our life together. And then after college, he found his space in real estate in a whole bunch of different forms to lead him to where he is today. But real estate has kind of been the space that he's landed in. And by the looks of his Instagram, which we all know Instagram can be deceiving, it seemingly is working out for him. So it's exciting. He is now in Nashville area in Tennessee, and he's like having a blast. And I'm not going to spoil some of the things I want to ask you, but we're just going to get straight to the chase. Axel, I want to know, where were you 365 days ago-ish, physically, but also like emotionally and mentally? Like, where were you at?
Well, almost exactly. I think on my like memories on Instagram, it was like a week ago. Probably like a week ago, it was the 1 year anniversary of me being laid off because of COVID.
Oh, wow.
Which was just kind of a weird thing to see. And it was honestly kind of emotional, like looking back at it and like kind of feeling that day again, just because like I'd been working at the company I was at for a year and a half. They had moved me to Nashville to help with a new program. So just in my own head, I felt very confident in what I was doing and the company I was with. And I would have not thought that that was something that would have happened. And then, you know, one morning you're on a call with your entire team and they let go of the entire team at once on a Zoom call, which is like another just craziness of COVID that like it couldn't even happen in person.
Yeah.
And so it was just crazy to kind of see what I had posted that day about, you know, like I think it was 15% of my company got laid off, and so many of like my friends that I had made through that company too, and kind of where we were all at and different. Like I had just purchased a house 3 months prior. One of my coworkers had just purchased a house and had his first child. And so it was just like kind of a crazy time where we were all like, what's next?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that I'm glad you brought up that happened 1 year ago, because I remember I went on LinkedIn and I saw the post that you had made about you looking for work and like what had happened in terms of, you know, you not having your job anymore. Your post like blew up.
Yeah.
And it was like, obviously, like we can all like look at it and be like, well, yeah, a bunch of people were in a really similar boat, but you put some really concise words around your situation. Like, what was that like to kind of feel like people were kind of arm in arm with you with the situation that you were facing, but also like, did that instill like a little bit of hope for the future a little bit in that time, as silly as a LinkedIn post could be to bring hope?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because I'm not a big LinkedIn person. Like I utilize it for networking purposes, but I don't post a lot. Like I think prior to that, my like one big post was I did like a 1 year after graduating college, like my advice to like the next graduating class from what I just learned. And that got like, I think 1,000 views, which at the time I was like, wow, that was so many. And then when I made my layoff post, I think by the end of it, it was like 50,000 or more.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that I had reach out to me, like from different companies and all kinds, I mean, it was insane. Like my inbox on there was getting flooded, and I had to be very like specific with my word choice, just because with any layoff, like the companies are very specific about like what you can and can't say, especially when there's like I don't know what it's like, they give you like money as like a I'm sorry, essentially.
Yeah, severance.
Yeah. So it's very choicey. And so I mean, it was really great. Like nothing for me personally came out of that one, like any job opportunities, but I had so many people reach out from other industries or for positions that I may like wasn't qualified at the time, but a lot of my coworkers, like the position I was in was kind of different. Like a lot of my coworkers had MBAs and a lot of higher level degrees, and I was just really like, it was a great benefit that I was able to work around them. So I was able to find like, I think 2 or 3 of my coworkers that were laid off jobs like through that, which was really cool.
Awesome.
But yeah, it was just, I mean, I definitely didn't expect it to get so much traction. And then, but it did help, I think overall. Like I was able, I think in total, like unemployment, I was unemployed for like 10 days, and it kind of was my choice just because I was laid off. And then the next day I got a call from an agent that I knew in Nashville who was like, hey, I'm so sorry, but do you want a job? And I was like, sure. I was like, can I have a week to kind of like think about my life and everything? And then I was like, I just like need kind of, I hadn't taken a vacation the whole time I worked for this company. So it's like a year and a half of no breaks. And I was like, I want to utilize this like week to just kind of collect my thoughts and kind of regroup and get my finances in order of like what I need to be making in order to like pay off this house I have and my car and all of that. So, I mean, thankfully I'm very thankful for that agent who called me, because it kind of kept me on a good track mentally. I didn't dive. I mean, I definitely kind of dived a little bit into the like sadness black hole, but by no means what it would have been.
Yeah, for sure. There was that, even just having someone say like, there's value in you and a potential job opportunity sitting in front of you was enough to kind of like give yourself permission to like take a deep breath, like get a little like time away. It was such a weird time a year ago in that sense, I would say, because like everyone was working remote, but then I feel like in the April timeframe was when you started seeing people kind of take full advantage of working remote, where they'd like all of a sudden be at their lake house, or they'd like be up in the mountains, and there was like remote vacations, like working from a vacation started happening. But anyways, I digress. But I'm like proud of you for like needing to taking that mental break and being able to say like, okay, I need a moment here, like because it is emotional to like not be working for the company I was with for such a long time, but now having to look forward and try to figure out what was next. So, okay, so what was next? So is that the company that you ended up working for a stint of time?
No. So this agent, he still was like under the same. So basically how my role worked is I worked on the corporate side for a real estate brokerage. And he was an agent under that brokerage. So basically he was like, do you want to do kind of like a 90-day contract with me where you just help me get my business organized, kind of handle marketing, be kind of like the team manager of just he had all these great things. He just needed kind of like a helpful funnel. So I automated a lot of his processes, things like that, to just kind of help him get up and running quicker. I recruited like 2 people to work under him as well, just to help grow business. And so, I mean, it was great. And then during that time of working with him, I had applied to work for a mortgage company, like, probably like 2 years prior to all of this. And when you apply and they say, oh, we'll keep you on file, but like they never reach back out. And during that time, this company did. They're like, hey, like we still had your resume on file. We were, hiring, would love to consider you for a position. And I was like, this is, crazy. That stuff just doesn't really happen. And so I went through the process, got the job, which was back in California. And so that was kind of a big decision of I'd only been in Nashville for a little over at that point, not even a year.
Right.
I was in Nashville for all like, I think 9 months, 10 months at that
Yeah.
point. And so I accepted the offer, flew to California for like 36 hours to like find an apartment, and I put a deposit down on an apartment and had one secured. I had rented all the rooms out at my house in Nashville because I planned on moving, and was like ready to go. Like I sold all my furniture I had just purchased a couple months prior. And I thought, like it wasn't, I wanted to be in Nashville, but also if it wasn't in the cards and like this is where life was taking me, I was like, I guess, I'm going to go back to California. And the job was great and had growth potential. So I was like, maybe I'll get to come back. And that was the plan up until like a week before I was supposed to move.
Wow.
back.
Okay, I have to be honest. Like, I remember that happening because I remember getting the text like, "Hey, let's grab lunch. Like, I'm in town for 36 hours. Let's like make it happen." And so, like, quite honestly, like that time frame for everyone listening, like that was like one of the last times that Axel and I were really like chatting about like life stuff and like trying to communicate about what was going on. The rest of this conversation of whatever happened in Axel's life in the last 365 days, I'm about to learn with you. So it's going to be it's going to be a fun ride. But nonetheless, you obviously like you had put in a lot of eggs into that basket, like the apartment, the furniture, the selling of the renting of your house. Like, goodness gracious, how did we get from I'm for sure going to California to you have not left Tennessee?
Yeah. So probably like a week before I was supposed to leave, I just wasn't feeling great about it. I was looking at like my little budget spreadsheet I had, and I was seeing that I was going to basically, because when I was living in California prior to, I wasn't saving anything, which was just like killing me just because things are more expensive there. And I was like looking back at my spreadsheet and I was like, wow, like I was able to save here and I'm going to go back to living basically like paycheck to paycheck and having like a very fixed budget for going out and things like that. And it was just kind of making me sad again. Like I was excited to be closer to family and friends, but on the other side of it, I was like, there was just no like personal growth there for me, I felt like. So I was having some doubts, and then we had Father's Day, and then a week after Father's Day was when I was supposed to move, like right before the 4th of July, because I love the 4th, so I wanted to be back for the 4th. And Father's Day, I'd asked my dad like what he would want for Father's Day, and he's like not an emotional person, and he like had tears in his eyes, and he was like, I want you to stay. And so that just kind of like what really hit me, just because I'm like, me and my dad have never had like an emotional relationship like that with each other. And I was already feeling like not 100% about it. And so after that conversation, I was like, okay, I was like, I'm going to stay. But then I had already rented my house out. So that I was like, I'll stay. But I was like, I have to move back in with you guys, which I'm like, this is great. Like just turned 25, moving back into my parents' house. Like love that for myself.
Yeah.
And so I ended up staying into my parents' house. Had to let the job know that I, wasn't going to be doing it. Had to cancel the apartment, which thankfully they gave me my money back, but I think that's only because of COVID.
Sure.
I told them they could keep it because it wasn't because of COVID, but they still gave it back, so that was nice.
Hey, small victories for sure. Yeah. That was like the pride and joy of last year.
And then just kind of took after that, because I was back at my parents and I was having renters in my house, I kind of had some time to just like relax and kind of think about what my next steps are, because I'd already left my 90-day contract with that other agent, and then now had moved into my parents' house and had really like no jobs lined up. And so then kind of took, I think it was probably like almost a month just to myself, and like spending time with my family, because I didn't spend a lot of time with them since moving, so I was so busy. And then just kind of like thinking about what I wanted my next move to be in my career. Just because I felt like a lot of pressure being at 25. I was like, you know, like what, like I feel like I had goals for myself that one of them was buy a house, which I did, but like all my other goals I didn't. So I was like, I need to kind of get it going.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, it sounds to me like there was a lot of pieces of the puzzle that kind of came together in ways that you like hadn't really imagined, but like you also got to listen to your heart in that time, and you're able to just like be like, okay, so this like what dad has said, but also like I like in a very wise way, like you looked at your budget and you're like, California life versus Tennessee life is probably, one is like fixed income and like trying to like make ends meet, and the other is like I get to like let loose a little bit in terms of like relax and have some freedom, but also work towards financial goals as just like a person in your 20s. Like I know what that feels like. Like there's these like numbers in your head that are like, if I don't have that, then I'm not meeting what I want to be having. But like there's also like other things that come in the way, like a trip to Cabo or something that you're like, but I want that too.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But anyways, I think what's super cool about all of that is there's like such a journey that like you really had to be aware day to day of like, okay, how am I feeling today? Like understand how I'm feeling today, and then take on the day the way that like you're feeling you needed to take it on. And that's kind of what I saw from afar, was I was able to watch you just kind of like attack it the way that you needed to. And like now to hear what those pieces of the puzzle were, it's cool to kind of like look back and to now know what life you have created for yourself. Like all of those things were for a reason, and you needed to just take those steps the way that they unfolded, which is pretty cool.
It was crazy. And I'm a very fast-paced person. Like I like to get things done quickly, and it was really like during that time I was like, I really had to slow down.
Yeah.
And like I went on a lot of like walks outside and just like kind of force myself to not move quickly. And it was, and kind of let go of control, which is like another thing. Like I like to move fast. I like to control as much as I can around me. And like during that time, I had to do the complete opposite of what I felt comfortable doing, which was, it's hard, but also like it probably was like the most necessary thing at that time for me, because otherwise, like I just don't know. I really don't think I'd be like in the same position I'm in now if I wouldn't have just kind of like let go and taken that step back and like taken a deep breath.
Totally. Okay, so since then, some things that I've seen that I would love to hear more about, like you flipped a house, which that's awesome. And like to me, it like only happens on HGTV. So like I want to hear more about that. And since then, tell us more about what role you are in your career and like how you got to that spot.
Yeah. So after kind of my time to myself, one of my friends out here, basically there was an agent who was looking to grow his team out here, and I didn't know him directly, but we had a mutual friend. So I'd asked my friend to just introduce us, and we met on like a Thursday. And then like, I think the next day I was like in the office, like us working together. Like we just hit it off. We were the same age. He was 1 year into real estate, was crushing it. It needed help. And so I came on as just kind of like we'll see how the role transforms. And him and I spent like 3 or 4 months just like grinding. We crushed it during that time, and it was a lot of fun. And I learned so much more on the agent side that I didn't know, which was really great. And then at the end of that, like we were kind of operating pretty independently. And so we had made the decision, like he was going to keep doing his stuff. I was going to go off and be kind of, for the first time, a completely solo agent under a brokerage. So I'd be 100% commission, like fully control of my own destiny, building like my own brand, which is my name, which was like another kind of thing I didn't want to associate with, but I kind of had to with real estate.
Yeah.
And so what was it? Like end of October is when I joined at Village as like a solo agent, and have like my name, my initials are my logo, which is like building my brand. And at that, I'm 100% commission. And so it's starting, at I was getting like a little bit from him, and then obviously we had our deals. So it was like a crazy transition to go from having like, okay, I knew I had at least a little bit coming in to like, if I'm not working, I'm not making money.
Yeah.
Which was crazy and stressful, but
Totally.
I mean, everyone had always said for the longest time, like, you need to just go be an agent, like go be an agent. And even when I worked for my last company on the brokerage side, where I was doing business development for the agents, they were like, why are you helping us? Like, just go do stuff on your own. But I just never wanted to take that leap. And so because of like COVID and the situation it put me in, where I was like back at my parents' house and my house was rented, I was able to like really keep my expenses low. And I was like, I literally told myself, I was like, there's going to be no other point in my life where I'm going to have like this little amount of expenses just because of where I was at. And so I'm like, if there's a chance to try, like, it's now.
Yeah. That's so cool. That's so cool. And so now that's your role. That's what you're doing now.
So since October, which feels like forever ago, but in retrospect, it's all of 6 months ago.
Well, it feels like forever ago because you have continued to just grind it out and like do business in Nashville. Like, it's inspiring to watch. Like, the amount of properties that you're like watching and going to tour. And one of the other pieces of the puzzle that is like really cool to me is like, you have now created like, is it like a mailer or like an email blast to people from California that are interested in coming to Tennessee, which the fact that there's a market for that is hilarious to me. But I can attest, like, I know 2 people right now that are on their way, like literally their goodbye party was this weekend because they are moving to Nashville area. So like, what's that been like to just get to help some people that are friends, family, and people that have like recommended you out here in Orange County, California, that have wanted to come to Tennessee? Has that been like really lucrative for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Like, the market out here is already insane, but I mean, I'm super, like, it sounds really cliche, but like very blessed and very thankful just for the sphere of family and friends that I have that have like really, like, besides me diving in and like fully going into my own business, like everyone around me was like very supportive of that and really like kind of dove in with me. And so like my entire business is all based off of family, friends, and referrals. So cool. Which most of the time, like, a lot of the younger agents in the office that are like around my age who are just starting off, like, they're consistently like, I need to build a database and build leads, or, you know, they're wanting to pay for Zillow leads or pay other companies to generate leads for them. And it's tough. Like, grinding that way is so much harder. So I'm so thankful that like I've had a steady flow since going in, and like March was my craziest month to date. I did, what was it? I think I put like 8 properties under contract in March for people. And like 90% of my people are from out of state. Like, I've got California, I have Washington, I have Illinois, New York. I feel like there's a few other ones.
It's just the place to come to these days.
Well, we're open. That's part of it.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Like, in a 1 year ago kind of mentality, like a year ago, like nothing was open. But then the slow progression, like, I spent a good stint in Arkansas, January and February of this year, and like things were a lot more open than they were in California at the time. And like, I had been hearing, because I was with a friend who actually does live in Nashville now, who was with me in Arkansas, and she was like, yeah, it's just like, it's different. Like, every state is going differently. So I hear you on that. I think that it's probably a part of the reason that we're seeing such business flow there.
I mean, it's like, being open is obviously, like, depending on where you stand with everything, like, just a nice thing to be able to go out. But then, you know, there's a lot of things that the state offers as well, which is like is beneficial to people. But it is crazy. Like, when I was back in, I think, January in California, like, it was weird to kind of go back to California, because it's like you're almost going back in time after being here. Yeah, it's like, oh, you're waiting in line to get into the grocery store, and you can't sit. Well, I think you guys can sit down now, but like, you couldn't sit at the restaurant. Like, we had to, like, the hotel we stayed at was next to a Mexican restaurant, so we had to like order over the phone and then walk over and grab it and then like bring it back and eat in the hotel room. And so it's just like funny because to us, it's like we have to wear a mask when we're inside the restaurant until we like sit down, but then you can take it off. Or some of the places that are like a little bit more strict, like when the server comes over, you like put it back on until they walk away. But it was just, you know, it's weird going back to California. When we went back to California, and it was like, oh, like we had to like kind of readjust what we were used to.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's just so interesting. I mean, I think especially with probably some of your clients, you're getting to like hear different parts of the country and how those different pieces of the puzzle are unfolding, just nationwide. But I think it's also, it's cool, like in your line of work too, to like be able to walk with families like through like, if it's a feeling of hope coming from California to Tennessee, and like maybe it's a story of, you're probably hearing all of the stories, like are their kids gonna be able to go to school like day to day, and is mom and dad gonna be able to like go to work and like have a job? Is it a work, like those stories I think are way greater than just the idea of I'm a real estate agent finding a roof for your head, to go over your head. Like I'm sure that you're walking with these families through these, like the trenches of the last year with them as well.
And it's, you know, and you see like, you hear crazy things, you hear sad, like really sad stories too of, you know, people that are on the brink of like losing their home or other situations, or like I have one family that their kids are just not adjusting well to online school, and they're in Seattle, and it's just going to stay that way. Like they don't plan on going back to school. And so for them, they're like, we can work remotely, so why not move to a place where our kids can go back to school and have the social interactions that kids need to have. And then I've got other, you know, I have clients right now who are they're, what are they, 23 and 24, born and raised in Orange County, and they just got married during COVID, and they, instead of spending the money on their wedding because of COVID, they're using it for a down payment on their house. So they just put a down payment on they're going to have a new construction house that will be done for the holidays for them to move into. So it's just a cool thing to be like a part, especially a part of like the first time home buying process for people. Because even some of the people from California, like that are, I say older than like we are, like in their 30s or 40s, like some of them are buying their first house just because the affordability in California was never there, and they always just rented. So like even for them, it's a cool experience because they're like, you know, we finally get to like buy a house that's ours, and we can do what we want with it if we want to paint the walls or take a wall down, whatever. So it's fun. I always tell people though, I'm a lot harder on houses than they are. Like I'll like open a door and I'll be like, no, we're not buying this house.
I can totally see that. Oh man, that's funny.
I have friends building a house, and we were at their design appointment, and she picked out a backsplash, and I was like, no, you don't want that one. And she's like, why? And I was like, when you rub your hands on it, it like doesn't feel good. And the design guy was there, and he goes, why are you rubbing your hands on backsplash in a kitchen anyway? And I was like, when you're cleaning it, obviously.
Right.
When you're like random things that like I thought about because I'm weird like that, but I was like, no, we're not doing that backsplash. I don't care if you like it.
That's so funny. That is so funny. Okay, well, the last question I do want to ask you that I ask every guest that comes on 1YL is, I want to know, did your 1 year ago self believe that you could be here where you're at today 1 year later?
Definitely not. I mean, I would say a year ago, when like everything had just happened, like I don't really think that I saw myself doing a lot. Like I was in such a place where I just don't, I think I was just physically exhausted from working so much. And then that made me emotionally exhausted that I just felt like I was like, I'm done. Like, I just don't, I'm like, maybe I will just go live on a farm or something and not do, like, just sit and not do anything. And I would have never thought, like, now sitting here, like running like my own business, you know, like real estate's kind of like running your own business. And, you know, getting to work with like people from like all walks of life and, you know, buying homes that range from $250,000 to my clients that are building like a $3 million beautiful home. Like, it's just such a crazy, it really is crazy to like look back and think of like where I was, but also like, it's good to reflect on that too. Like what we're doing right now, which is really cool. What I was thinking about before we jumped on, like my 1 year would look a lot different if I wasn't surrounded by the people I was. And I think that was a big portion of like when me staying here really allowed that growth to happen, and being like really like close with my family and moving back home and like having their support like really helped with that. And like it's just, I mean, all of it's truly crazy. Like,
it is.
I would have never like, I mean, every day I'm like, what? I wake up, I'm like, what is life right now? Like I have my big 6-foot whiteboard that like sits right in front of my bed. So every morning when I wake up, I can like see my clients and who, you know, where everything is. And I like wake up and I'm like, how is this real?
Right. A year ago, you had no 6-foot whiteboard. I'll tell you that much.
No, definitely did not. I couldn't afford a 6-foot whiteboard a year ago.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's so cool. I mean, it's a testament. Like it's been funny. Like as I've gotten guests on for 1YL, like I don't know if the trajectory of their last year like started out really bad and got a lot better. Like that's kind of like what I assume, especially given that last year was the start of a pandemic. Like it just makes sense that that's kind of what it would be. But like it's so cool to understand and look retrospectively at some of those turning points that like got you to where you are today. Like affording a 6-foot whiteboard and helping to build and design a $3 million home. Like these pieces of the puzzle that like when a year ago you believed that your role was to do business development for other agents, and now you see yourself in a role where I'm sure to some degree you're going to be looking around for someone to help you do business development for your own like agency. Like it's just so cool to be able to like see those puzzle pieces falling into place for you, and just getting to cheer you on alongside of it. And yes, we miss you in California, but that's what technology is all about. And it's called an airplane. So it's just about time that I come to Nashville.
Opening up a little bit more. So if I come to visit, we can actually go, you know, I just want to eat tacos. Honestly, I just want to eat tacos on the beach is all I want to do.
Hey, we can do that. That is something we can do now. Well, okay, the last thing I was going to say to you is you are the closest thing that I have to selling Sunset. So I hope that you feel really honored about that. And I'm very excited for the new seasons that were just announced that are going to come out, because it is totally my guilty pleasure to just watch the drama unfold in the Oppenheim group. So I just need you to know that like every time I watch an Insta story pop up where you're like holding an Axel Reed key in front of like a new home, I'm like, yes, this is like basically watching Christine and Chriselle like get after it. So
that's okay. That's some agents out here like, I hate that. I'm like, I love it. Like I love watching some of it is so, you know,
context though.
A lot of it is like, I mean, it does out here doesn't get as cutthroat as it does in Orange County, but there are moments where you have to bring out the Orange County cutthroat if you want to get the deal done.
Right. On our next podcast show, it's Axel sharing all of the cutthroat stories of his real estate career.
I don't know if that'd be legal.
No, I know. And we would definitely need to replace some names, but man, goodness gracious.
I think we need our own out in Nashville, personally.
Okay.
I think the Oppenheim group should come out here. They're opening up an Orange County office. They could open a Nashville office next.
You know, if you need a letter of recommendation, I will support.
Yeah, so
that's all I got though. All right. Yeah, heck yeah. Well, Axel, thanks so much for sharing your story on 1YL. It was so awesome just to get to hear how the puzzle pieces fell into place for you this past year. And I know for sure there's definitely people out there who have either been dreaming of one day being a real estate agent or are in the midst of starting their own process of being a real estate agent that are going to hear the story and be able to take a lot from it. I also think there's a group of people who are going to be able to listen to this and feel like when at once they lost a job, that by putting your head down and like taking a deep breath and understanding what you're passionate about and then chasing that dream, like is definitely a part of your story that is really inspiring. So thanks for sharing. And I promise I'll come to Nashville soon.
You always say that. You and Caitlin.
I do. I do. We will come eventually, I promise.
One day.
Yes. But thanks for being on here. And everyone, tune in tomorrow. As you know, every day in the month of April, we'll have an episode of 1YL. So tune in tomorrow for another awesome episode. Thanks, Ax.
All right. Thanks.